Hey guys, so it's the end of the year, so it's time to do a wrap up of the most disappointing books of the year. Now, I will say now that these books I still enjoyed elements of, but there were just bits that I found disappointing in them. So I do still enjoy these books and I still find these books fun. I still gave them like 3 stars on average, so I still enjoyed them and I'm still interested in some of the sequels and things. It's just the fact that there were elements in this that either didn't live up to my expectations or were just slightly disappointing, and I will go into both sides of this as I'm going on, so I'm going to stop waffling now and just tell you about my most disappointing books of 2018. The first book I'm mentioning is Brandon Sanderson's Legion. Now, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the first and second story in this. It was just the ending story that I didn't like, because this is a book all about a guy called Stephen Leeds who doesn't have multiple personality disorder or schizophrenia. He just has multiple people living inside of his head, and they have certain knowledge and knowledge bases and skills and things like this that help him survive and help him solve crimes, which was so interesting and so cleverly done. I just didn't really like the ending story. I felt like it needed a lot more explanation to it, and it needed to be padded out a bit more, because there were several things that were revealed in this final story that explained everything that had happened in the previous stories and things, but it just didn't quite fit with me. And the final ending and the wrapping up of Stephen's life, I just didn't really like it, because I felt like it took away a huge part of Stephen and made him not as interesting anymore. I like that it gave him hope at the end, but it still, there was something about that ending that really sort of rankled with me. And I can't go into spoilers in case some people still want to read this. I know Brandon Sanderson is a massively loved author, so I won't go into it in case people do want to read this one. But I will say that the final story just didn't quite work for me. The other two worked really well, and I was so interested in all of it. It was just that final story that I was a bit iffy on in the end. Next book I'm going to be talking about is The We Free Men by Terry Pratchett, and I never thought I would put a Terry Pratchett book on my most disappointed list. But with this one, there was one element that I just couldn't get past, because I can get past a lot with Terry Pratchett, because obviously Terry Pratchett's all about suspending disbelief and going on this mad adventure in this world that is so fantastical but kind of like our world and stuff, and I can really get into it. I love Terry Pratchett's writing. But with this one, the one thing I couldn't get past is the We Free Men, as in these characters on the front cover. I could not get past how they spoke. They are Scottish to start with, which is fine. I like the Scottish accent, but it's written phonetically, so as you read it in a Scottish accent. Now, this is probably fine for 90% of the population, but I'm dyslexic, so reading it phonetically meant that I took so long trying to figure out what the We Free Men were saying. I kind of lost how funny it was, because objectively it was funny. It just, for me, I couldn't get that funny feeling and that laughter going, because I was too busy trying to figure out what the We Free Men were saying to each other and to Tiffany Aching. Other than that, it was a really interesting story and such a clever idea for a set of characters, but for me, I just could not get into the dialect of the We Free Men. I would have read the audiobook, but unfortunately audiobooks for me just do not work. I sort of switch off and mind wanders, so I miss 90% of the story because I'm too busy thinking about something else. Otherwise, I would have probably really enjoyed this if I could listen to audiobooks, but unfortunately I can't, so I am stuck with this one where the dialect is just very confusing for me. If this had a separate version where everything was written out properly and spelt properly and just said it's in a Scottish accent or something, I would have enjoyed this 1,000 times more. It was just the dialect of the We Free Men which kind of confused me and put me off for the entire time. I know I'm going to get killed for this next one, but Percy Jackson. I just had this huge, massive hype up for these books, and I was like, yes, I'm going to finally read this and join in on the conversation and absolutely love it, but I just didn't. There was some sort of really bad disconnect between me and the characters. Now, I know this is totally my fault. It's completely and utterly my fault. like, you can tell this just by the millions of really good 5-star reviews on Goodreads and all of Rick Riordan's fans. So this is totally me. It's a totally me problem here, and I am fully able to admit this and put my hands up and say, no, it's definitely me here. It's not the author's fault, because the actual story in this and the world building, everything is so interesting and so intricate and so well researched. I have to put my hands up and praise Rick Riordan for his research. It was just something about these that just I could not connect to. I think maybe I'm just that tad bit too old for these books. Maybe, probably, I think I'm just just a few years too old. If I'd read this like 4 years ago, I would have absolutely loved it, but for some reason, I just think as I've gotten older, middle grade like this are just not for me, unfortunately. But saying that, I did still really like the world building and everything, and I have to praise Rick Riordan for all of that. It's just the characters I could not connect with, which made it really disappointing for me. Next book is going to be Mortal Engines by Philip Reeve. Now, I was expecting absolute brilliance in this book, and I think I just set my expectations a bit too high, and I think I was basing my expectations on the movie trailer, which was quite dark and not disturbing, but it was quite dark and grim and things, and I really quite like that. But instead, this was quite, not happy-go-lucky, but it felt very lower middle grade for me, and I'm more of a higher middle grade kind of reader when I do read middle grade, so this was a bit of a shock when I was expecting like the book version of the movie trailer. Instead I got something that was really rather different. I don't know, I may come back to this at some point, I don't know. But at the moment, I think I expected far too much and got the complete opposite. And this should teach me to stop relying on movie trailers to inform me what the book's going to be like, because I should know by now that Hollywood changes everything. But apparently I don't learn. And the final book on this list is J. Kristoff's Lifelike. Now, I really enjoyed the storyline of this because it was very X-Men meets Mad Max, and I am X-Men trash and have been since the age of about 7. I can't remember a time when I wasn't X-Men trash, so I was really, really interested in this book. The world building and everything was absolutely fantastic. I loved all of that. My one problem was Ezekiel. Ezekiel had no personality in my mind. He had the personality of a spoon, but like he had nothing further than I'm in love with Eve, and he had basically nothing else apart from that thing for him, and I wished it had more character to him. And also his love story with Eve was just really putting off to me, because for me, I need like books without love stories in. I can't stand love stories in books. They have to be exceptionally good for me to like them, and they have to not get in the way of the rest of the storyline, and they have to feel natural. For me, in this one, it felt very, not forced, but like it had been put in to create slightly more drama in a book that didn't need more drama in it. Also, he's a robot, and he started sleeping with her when she was 15, and he was technically about 2, which was just weird, and the whole underage thing really sort of weirded me out quite a lot, and the fact they sort of had insta-love just really, really wasn't my thing at all for me, and it was just that sort of element that I really, really didn't like, and it really, really put me off. So that is why this is on the disappointing book list. Other than that, I absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed Eve's character, Lemon's character, Cricket's character. Every other character was really, really interesting. It was just that element. That, and I also figured out the plot twist really early on. I figured out the ending plot twist like within 10 chapters, I think, which was quite annoying, but there we go. I still really enjoyed this book for its other elements, like the world building and everything, and I am going to be reading the sequel next year. It's just the fact that there was just some elements in this one that just really sort of niggled at me and I couldn't quite deal with. But that is the end of my most disappointing books. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below with what you thought were the most disappointing books of the year, as well as what you thought of these books that I have mentioned. I'll also leave a link down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, as well as a full review of J. Kristoff's Lifelike if you want to see any more of my in-depth thoughts on the book. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here with the link to my previous video. But until next time, guys, bye!